When you're factoring expressions, my best advice would be to stick with the formula, especially if you have 3 terms where you do the first, outer, inner, last. So I'm going to look at my first term first and see what factors make up 25x squared and how you can multiply them together, and that would go first in your formula that you're just going to plug things into. For 25, you really only have 25 times 1 and 5 times 5. And just for the sake of being easy, I'm going to do 25 is 5 times 5. And then x squared would just be x times x. So right off the bat, we're going to try this and see if it works. Sometimes things work the first time you try it, and sometimes they don't, and you have to try another set of factors. Okay, we're going to skip this 30 for now. And this is where our trial and error is going to work out. Plus 9, I have a positive sign as my last term, but since I have a negative sign or a subtraction sign in front of my second term, I know that my 2 terms are going to have to be subtracted, since a negative times a negative will make a positive in the end. So that's how you know what signs to put in. Now, if your 9 was negative, one of these would need to be a negative and one of these would be a positive, and this 30 would not be a 30. So it's just this sign right here is the most important thing to tell you what goes here. If you see a positive here and a negative here, you're going to multiply 2 negatives together. So with that being said, the only factors that make up 9, when you multiply them by themselves, you have 9 times 1 and 3 times 3. And for the sake of keeping things easy, we're going to do 3 times 3. And we're going to hope this works out. So this is my factored expression, and you just have to check it and see if it works. So I'm going to multiply my first 2 terms. So my 5x and my 5x is just 25x squared. After you do your first, you do your outer terms. So I'm going to do 5x times negative 3. Don't forget the sign there. Whatever is in front of that number, that's what you have to use as the sign. So 5x times negative 3 is negative 15x. So we did our first term, we did our outer terms, now we do our inner terms. That would be our negative 3 and 5x. So negative 3 times 5x is another negative 15x. So we did our first, our outer terms, our first terms, our outer terms, and our inner terms. Now you do your last 2 terms. So that would be the 3 times, or the negative 3, I'm sorry, don't forget those signs. You have your negative 3 times the negative 3. Negative times a negative is a positive, and we have 9. So now you're going to look to make sure whether you can combine your like terms or not. I see right here that I can combine my negative 15x and negative 15x. That makes a negative 30x. Since that's like adding 2 negatives, it would not be an exponent because you're not combining it through multiplication, so it's just negative 30x. The 25x squared cannot be combined with anything, and your plus 9 cannot be combined with anything. So it worked out what we did. And again, we separated the 25x squared into 5x times 5x. We used that positive 9 right here and this negative sign to know that we were going to multiply 2 negatives together. And the factors that make up 9 are negative 3 times negative 3. And the only other way I could see of writing this any simpler, it would just be 5x minus 3 quantity squared. So these 2 expressions right here and right here are equivalent.